Hello there, this is Deborah Pratt Johnson Burns. I'm the founder of Literacy to Legacy Mentors, Reframing Your Financial Future. My Financial Freedom Education Series and Entrepreneur Spotlight is a complimentary series on Zoom every Wednesday evening at 5:30. I have special guests from the fields of trust and estate law, financial services, insurance, and college financial aid. Today, we'll be speaking about the importance of using an irrevocable life insurance trust as part of an estate and financial planning tool. Today, I have a very special guest by the name of Fred Bollaci. He is a trust and estate attorney in the state of Florida for the past 20 years. He is also an expert in real estate law. So I will have him share with you a little bit about what this ILIT is, who uses it and why, and how to go about creating it. So Fred, I guess first question is, welcome to today's event. And first question is, what is an irrevocable or revocable trust, and when are they used in estate planning and financial planning purposes?
Well, first, thank you, Deborah, for having me. I'm honored to be here today as your guest, and happy to get into this. It's a very important topic, especially now with trust and estate law in flux. First, we have two kinds of trusts that we use. One are revocable or living trusts that can be changed, modified, terminated at the will of the grantor, the person who sets up the trust.
Okay.
And these are simply a means of avoiding probate, which is asset administration by a court. It's a cumbersome, time-consuming, and costly, often stressful process that could take anywhere from a number of months to even a couple of years, depending on what's involved. So we try to keep our clients out of probate court as much as possible, especially if I'm the one involved in setting up their or reviewing, renewing, re-executing documents. We want to make everything so your estate does not have to go through that process. So revocable or living trusts keep the assets out of probate and are also a way to help avoid creditors and all that other stuff.
And very high estate taxes, right?
But it doesn't necessarily shield an estate from Uncle Sam or the tax man. Okay. So right now, the exempt amount for estate tax purposes is somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 million per person, double that, $24 million per couple. And that seems like, a really large sum of money to most people. It's like, 1.5% of estates right now are subject to the estate tax of 40% on anything over that. Okay. However, the law is in flux. It's supposed to come down to $5 million in the next several years. And the current administration and Congress are kicking around the idea of $3.5 million per person, so $7 million per couple, if done right, is the number that's currently being talked about in Washington. So that opens it up to a much larger number of people who currently don't think they have anything to worry about, especially in this environment with hyperinflation, where real estate prices are through the roof in most of the country, as you know. Right. So, people who have primary residence, maybe a business and a few assets that don't think they have to worry now, all of a sudden, it comes down to $3.5 million, you might have a taxable estate. So the way to avoid not just probate and creditors, but to actually set aside a sum of money and protect it, shield it from potential estate tax at any point in the future when the person dies, is to set up the second kind of trust, which is called an irrevocable trust. Okay. So irrevocable trusts typically are set up by the grantor to named beneficiaries, often surviving spouse and or children. You could name anybody. I mean, we have people set up irrevocable trusts that go to charity. Oh, okay. But these trusts typically can't be changed. The grantor, the person who sets it up, does not control or manage it. It's typically done by a professional trustee. I mean, I do it for clients. I mean, a trust and estates attorney, or it could be a bank or a financial planner or advisor, but somebody who is well-versed and skilled in the nuances of trust and estate law, especially with administering a trust on behalf of somebody while they're still alive, and then enabling the assets held by the trust in the name of the trust to pass to the beneficiaries free from tax. So it's an excellent vehicle. So what we're really talking about today, that's just the first part, is the two types of trusts. What we really want to get into is life insurance and how a life insurance trust could be set up as an irrevocable trust
Right.
as a means of shielding potentially a large sum of money from Uncle Sam, from estate tax, to benefit your beneficiaries down the road, to help them maintain certain standard of living, to pay bills, estate administration, and not force them, your surviving spouse or kids, to have to sell the family business in a certain amount of time to pay taxes, or to be able to maintain their lifestyle, to pay for college, to make mortgage payments on a primary residence. So it keeps this money out of any possible taxable estate, passes free from creditors, free from probate, free from court. It's a direct line. And that's why we like it so much.
It seems
It's a great way of
very
leverage.
attractive. Yeah, very
Especially,
attractive.
let's say, you have a primary residence, it's worth X, maybe a couple $1 million, and you have a family business and you have some investments, but you're the primary breadwinner and, you make a good salary, God bless you. It could be 6 or 7 figures, but you're the primary breadwinner and you want to make sure that this standard of living continues in the unlikely event something happens to you, so that your spouse and or children are able to stay in the schools, stay in the house, maintain the standard of living if you're no longer there with that income. So you set up a life insurance policy in your name, but owned by the trust. It's slightly complicated, but having a versed, experienced trust and estates attorney and financial people to help guide you through this process. When you're setting up the trust, you apply for the policy in your name for X amount of coverage, X amount of years, whole life, term life. We'll get into all that stuff, what makes the most sense.
Sure.
And that this policy will insure your life and provide a payment to your beneficiaries free from estate tax or any of that, and enable them to continue the lifestyle that you've been providing for them in the event something happens to you.
Excellent. So what about a person who has a life insurance policy now and they want to put it in an irrevocable trust? Could you take us through what that process looks like? What do they do next?
Okay, so not every policy would make sense or would be eligible, and not every person is a good candidate for an ILIT or irrevocable life insurance trust. But what you would do is sit down with an attorney and also get out the policy and review the terms of the policy. And if the policy was something that made sense, typically we have 2 types of life insurance policies. One is a whole life policy, which you pay X number, premiums for X number of years or X amount. Sometimes they go up. Or you have term life, which is, could be for 10 years, could be for 20 years, whatever, but it doesn't go forever.
Right.
So typically we want to put whole life policies that eventually will get paid into an irrevocable trust. Putting a term life policy into an irrevocable trust, depending on your age and circumstances, may not make the most sense, because there's a good likelihood that you will outlive the term of the insurance, and then the trust you've gone through all this trouble to set up will be useless.
Right.
So we typically want to focus on people who have whole life policies, whether it's an existing policy that you transfer into the trust if it's eligible to be done, or you go about seeking a new policy, a first-time policy, or an additional policy on your life that goes into the trust. The whole thing about an ILIT or irrevocable life insurance trust, whether you use an existing policy and you transfer it or you apply for a new policy, the policy needs to be in your name, so on your life, but the ownership of the policy needs to be in the trust. So the trust needs to be named as the owner, and the trust gets set up. It's a document. You apply for a number with the IRS to keep it separate. It's managed by a third party, preferably an experienced trustee such as myself, a trust and estates attorney, or a well-versed financial person who understands the nuances and the requirements to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, make sure that everything, all your ducks are in a row, because these are somewhat complicated as far as what needs to be done. We don't want to get into all of that today. Your trust and estates attorney and financial people will be able to walk you through it and handle it for you. So, you can rest at ease that once you get this policy in the ILIT, if it's something that is suitable for you, that they'll manage it for you and make payments and make life as easy as possible. And then this will eventually pass to your beneficiaries free from tax.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
you just
That's
want
what
to
we
make
want to
sure
hear.
that the trust is ready to go. I
Yeah.
mean, it's established, and that you're able to transfer an existing policy. So call the company, do whatever paperwork, make sure that the name's correct. I mean, as far as identification numbers and all the information, and your attorney will go over that and make sure it's done correctly. And it's a fairly straightforward process. And same thing goes if you're applying for a new life insurance policy. You apply for coverage for yourself, and hopefully
Okay.
you get something that makes sense. I mean, as far as, your age, health, and ability to pay whatever the premiums are, and the
Yeah,
amount of
good
coverage
point.
that you desire, to see if it makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
and at this point, it really helps to have somebody, I mean, it could be a financial person or attorney that has relationships with a number of different insurance brokers or
Good
companies
idea.
that,
Mhm.
you could kind of shop around. I mean, we could do a whole seminar just on the process of getting life insurance.
Right.
That in
Right.
itself is, it takes some skill and some practice. I mean,
It does.
you want a policy that's suitable for you. I mean, the company's out there to make money. They're
Sure.
looking at you as an investment, whereas you're looking at this as a way to provide for your family. But a lot of people overlook things like, are they even going to qualify? And are there things that they could do that are really simple, as far as like maybe lose a few pounds before applying, or
Sure.
getting your cholesterol down, things that you can easily tweak with diet, exercise, and or lifestyle modifications, simple
Sure.
ones, before you go and apply for a policy that will establish premiums for the rest of your life, or for a number of years, based on numbers that they look at these tables. And it's like, if you're 20 pounds overweight, or your cholesterol's over 200, that's factored in. I mean, you may be looking at 20, 50, 200, $1,000 a month more, whatever it is, depending on the
Right.
coverage, for something
Right.
that you could easily change. So we could have a whole seminar on that, but
Absolutely. So Fred, thank you. What would somebody do, for instance? Would they go to their trusted estate attorney to evaluate life insurance first and then determine if it should be put into a trust? That sounds like a logical next step.
Well, the first thing is, you want to have a conversation. I mean, if you have life insurance already, you just want to see if it's able to be transferred into the IRA.
Okay. Okay.
And, you'd look at things like your age, your life expectancy. I mean, typically ILETs are good for people who are younger. I mean, there was a thing, is the 3-year look back. The IRS looks at it like, if you pass within 3 years of setting up an ILET, they claw it back and make it part of your taxable estate. So,
Oh, that's not very
I mean,
fair.
no, the IRS is not very fair. So we're looking for any legal ways to avoid estate taxes. So there's all kinds of planning vehicles such as this. So,
Right.
I mean, odds are somebody, who's younger, they have, their life expectancy maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years,
Right.
it would make sense for them to consider an ILET, because odds are that's not going to be an issue. I mean, somebody who may be, 85 years old, it may not make sense,
Sure.
because they've already exceeded whatever the tables show as life expectancy.
Right.
So,
and the person that is the administrator, as you shared, should most definitely be a trusted estate attorney or financial planner, or someone who is actually very, very aware of not only your lifestyle and all of that, but also all of your assets, to put it really into context, because you will have to pay that person a management fee, correct? To take care of this.
Of course, you pay them a set fee or percentage or amount. I mean, it's all negotiable depending on the person, the trustee.
Sure.
And of course, you would want to talk with your attorney, your financial people, and evaluate. I mean, they hopefully have experience having gotten policies for other clients and worked with people in the life insurance industry.
Right.
That they know, who's got suitable products, and that they could put their heads together with you. What are your needs? What are your expenses? Your family situation, beneficiaries, spouse, income level, and what would you, if something were to happen,
Exactly.
whether it's next year, 5 years from now, 20 years down the road, what are you able to pay in premiums and what would you like to provide? What are your goals? What is feasible for you to help design a product that would make sense, and then sit with you on a call or in a meeting with prospective life insurance agents to put together something that would make sense for you to apply for.
Okay.
So say like you want to or able to contribute X amount monthly or quarterly or annually towards a premium, and you want to provide X amount of coverage to your beneficiaries. I mean, it could be $1 million, it could be $5 million, it could be $50,000, whatever it is, whatever makes sense to you. I mean, it's helpful to have experienced advisors to sit down and go over this, that you're not doing this in a vacuum and you're not being sold something by somebody who's just looking to make a commission, like if you just went to a life insurance company.
Very good, very good point. So there's also a situation, and I know this happens a lot with very elderly people, meaning in their 90s. I have friends whose parents actually have it in an ILET. Their concern is that the actual life insurance ends. There's no other way to extend it because of their age and the potentially prohibitive price it costs as a premium. And it'll end at 93 and they live till they're 96. So in that case, you can't really gauge how long you're going to live, obviously, but this is also a pretty serious consideration, right? In terms of how long will this policy last?
No, that's why we recommend, if at all possible, whole life policies, so there will be a payment at some point. Of course, the premiums are higher. So that's all something you have to take into consideration when you set it up, the ability and willingness to fund this policy for the rest of your life, however long it may be. I mean, should you live to be 100, and people are there.
Exactly. Right. And
so
when would someone have to, I know you said it's irrevocable, but when would there be a case or a situation where people would have to go in and actually make some amendments?
There are situations. I mean, irrevocable trusts are very difficult to amend or change, very limited number of circumstances. And typically you would have all the beneficiaries and the grantor who set it up all sign something that they're all in agreement to whatever proposed changes and go and petition a court. So it's not that it can't be done. It's somewhat of a cumbersome process. It takes some time, and it takes everybody being on the same page and not completely changing the purpose or frustrating the purpose that it was set up for. There's got to be some good valid reasons, and everybody's got to be on the same page, which unfortunately in families is not always the case. I mean, you set something up and it's like, what, you want to leave me less now all of a sudden? And it's like, a couple of siblings may be very, successful and independently wealthy, and maybe the third sibling or fourth sibling hasn't done as well and has relied on the parents, but everybody was being left a certain amount of money equally. And the two that are wealthy are just like, we don't care. I mean, we don't need the life insurance now. I mean, you set it up 20 years ago, we have more money than you do. And the other one's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean we don't need it? I need it.
Right.
So
yeah,
these are all considerations. Every family situation is different. Some of these policies do accrue a cash value. So these are all things to look at, just depending on how it was set up. But all things for you and your trusted estates lawyer and financial people to be on top of. I mean, we just want to expose people to this as a increasingly popular vehicle for people to use, especially in this environment where the estate taxes are in flux and we have rapid escalation in real estate and inflation. And this is another way for people to leverage if you don't have a lot of liquid assets right now. And your family's used to a certain lifestyle, or even if, let's just say, you're at the beginning of your career. These are very popular for people in their 30s and 40s who have some money, but probably are not going to be able to leave their wife and kids, God forbid something happens, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, the amount of money that is going to sustain them at the standard of living, I mean, into old age, through college, through graduate school, which, is very expensive, as we all know.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
So these are, I mean, life insurance in general is a very popular vehicle, especially among younger people, whether it's in an ILET or in a revocable trust, or you just name beneficiaries.
Right.
They're very, very popular and useful, especially because people in their 30s or 40s, it's a lot easier to get a policy,
Right.
especially if you've never smoked and don't have any major health issues, than somebody in their 50s or 60s. It just becomes, every year, it becomes more expensive and more difficult to get a policy.
Absolutely.
So
So
I have people in their 20s going in for policies. They're recently married, starting a family, and it's just like, we're not even talking ILETs necessarily. We're just talking like, as an investment vehicle, as a way to protect my family. What if something did happen to me? COVID's going on. I know people my age who, have lost loved ones or their lives to COVID.
Exactly.
So I'm in good health. So I've encouraged a number of people to go and apply for life insurance coverage, whatever amount they
absolutely
find suitable, feasible under their circumstances. So at least, even if you don't have a lot of money and it's not like a major vehicle for tax avoidance, like an ILET would be,
right.
Somebody who might have a small nest egg, if any, but you want to make sure that there's something, for your wife and small children or something, God forbid something happens to
exactly.
you.
That's a good point.
Get a policy if you're able to get a $500,000 policy or even $100,000 policy. It's better than leaving them nothing.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, I love life insurance as a way of leveraging.
I agree.
So whether it's an ILET or a revocable trust or just having something, but the sooner you do it, yesterday was the best day to get one. Today is the next best day. So
exactly.
Except for what I said about if there are minor adjustments you could make to your health and lifestyle,
sure.
Talk to your doctor. I mean, you want to go in, it's just like you're applying for a job. It's like you want your resume to be as polished as possible. You want to dress nicely. You want to present the best case to the life insurance people. They're going to have you checked out by their own medical team. They're going to look at your records. There's some things that you can't do anything about. But,
absolutely.
Like your weight, you could lose weight, your cholesterol. I mean, you could eat a little bit differently. Get those numbers down, keep them down for at least a year, then go apply. The numbers will be a lot better, and you'll be able to leave your family with a lasting legacy and security. God forbid something should happen to you. And if you're in the category of people that are looking for estate tax avoidance, and you're a higher net worth individual, and the way things are looking, I mean, it's not going to be just what we would call high net worth individuals today, like the top 1-2%, but maybe top 10% could be implicated as far as estate taxes, the way things are looking.
That's right.
Definitely talk to me, talk to your trust and estates attorney and or financial people about the feasibility and possibility of an ILET, an irrevocable life insurance policy, to protect and shield that money for your family from the government.
That's right.
Taxes. We want to leave it to our families.
That's right. Well, that sounds like a really, really great opportunity. And I think it's important that you outlined what the revocable is, what the irrevocable is, where you qualify or not qualify. Speak with your trusted estate attorney to maybe help you through this process of not only getting life insurance, but also potentially choosing which of these vehicles, if any, that you'd plan to use for estate planning purposes, whether you're 20 or 90. It's better to do it younger, like anything else is. The earlier, the better. So Fred, tell us, how can people reach you to get a complimentary consultation? Do you have a website, phone number? How do you prefer to be in touch?
Absolutely. Well, you could certainly email me, info@Fred Bollaci, my name, Fred Bollaci, and enterprises.com, FREDBOLLACI. You can find me on Facebook. You can always call me, message me, 561-789-0047. Leave me a message. I'm happy to provide complimentary half-hour consultations for folks regarding estate planning and legal issues of that matter in Florida. I also do Florida real estate and can help you find your Florida dream. So look forward to talking and helping you plan your future and your family's legacy.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so very much. That was very thorough and very informative. And let's also visit with Fred in a couple of weeks. He'll also be a guest on a number of other topics in the trust and estate purview. So do join us one Wednesday coming up in May, and another one as well, and in the future. You can reach me at literacytolegacymentors.net. I do provide complimentary consultations. Just hit the Get Started button. And you can also email me at Deborah@literacytolegacymentors.net. Thank you so much for joining us. I do hope you've learned a tremendous amount as I have tonight. And I look forward to your being in touch and participating in our future financial freedom education and entrepreneur spotlight series. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Fred.
Thank you.